This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the Viterbi School of Engineering.
Hey, everybody. I'm your other co-host. My name is Maya, and I'm a current senior studying Industrial and Systems Engineering here at Viterbi.
And joining us, returning back to the podcast, is Saafiyah. Saafiyah, do you want to introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are, where you're from, what you do here?
Of course. I'm Saafiyah Patel. I'm a junior in computer science. I'm from Fullerton, California. I have a lot more things I'm involved in since the last podcast episode I've done.
Whoa.
I know. Not a lot more, but I was on a kick at the beginning of the semester where I really wanted to join things that were a little less Viterbi related.
How
Because
dare you?
I know I betrayed my family. But I joined Helene's and I joined the fashion club at USC.
Ooh, Helene's
So-
and Fashion Club.
Yes. So very much diversifying from.
Tell us about the Fashion Club. What do you do in the Fashion Club?
So I'm on the communication operations team, which means we're mainly taking care of communicating with our general members. So like all the Slack information and all the newsletters,
What does the Fashion Club do?
Yes. I was getting to that. Don't worry. The fashion club. So usually we have.
I send like emails and I'm like really good at Slack. It's like
No,
but it's
that's what
like
I was trying,
high fashion communication. Like the fonts we use are just like unlike any others.
You have to make sure it's aesthetic for the people that are into fashion. You know what I mean? But overall, the club, the main two events we have are our fashion show, which is the biggest event that we have. It's usually in April. Last year they had about 400 people come to it. So we have USC and non-USC designers apply for the fashion show, and then we do casting calls with USC students. And then we plan the whole thing from getting the pieces from the designers to planning the venue the day
Cool.
of and planning the walk. And then we also have like flea markets on campus.
Really?
Yeah, so we have like monthly flea markets with different vendors. I don't know if those are still continuing, but for the past 2 years we've been doing them, so that's really cool.
That's cool.
And then we have like we had tote bag painting the other day.
Hmm.
Yeah, little things like that. It's a lot of fun.
And help people
Yeah.
understand what the organization USC Helene's are.
Yes, so Helene's is a service and spirit organization. So if you've ever seen a USC football game and you see the kids sitting in the front row, there's usually a Helene's or a Trojan Knights. So we do a lot of, it's like during rivalry week, we'll protect the Hecuba statue on campus. For the service side, we volunteer at the local high school and work with kids on service projects through that as well. So it's mainly just like getting involved in your community and the surrounding community to give back a little bit.
That's great.
Nice.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, I'm glad to hear it. So, Saafiyah, you are back with another episode. What is this episode all about?
So I interviewed one of my friends. His name is Anshay Saboo. He's in a club with me. So I'm in an engineering society called Thea Ta. I met him through that. But I just love picking his brain because he's done so much during his time at USC. He's had side projects, a lot of entrepreneurship activities going on. So I was just picking his brain about that. We ended up diverging a little bit more than we should have. We talked about his
That's good.
obsession with the Lakers because we're both big Lakers fans because we're OC
Okay.
natives. We also talked about The Bachelor because he's
Ah.
watched more of the Bachelor season than I have so far. Yeah, we went on a trip to Mammoth together and it was my first time skiing. So we talked a little bit about that. Yeah, I was like all over the place. It was a fun combo.
What are we titling this? Like, what's it about?
It initially was just supposed to be about him
Like
and
his
entrepreneurship endeavors because
entrepreneurship? Okay.
he's CS, but he definitely likes the business side of things and kind of working on startups from the ground up. So it's going to be more about the entrepreneurship side of things, but it kind of divulged into just like a reflection on his time at USC almost.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And what year is he?
He's a senior.
He's a senior. Okay, so he's reflecting. He's going back
Yeah.
on what he's been doing, but studying computer science and going towards this idea of entrepreneurship and startups, and obviously all of the more important things, which is Lakers and The Bachelor, of course.
Mhm.
Of course.
All right. Well, let's get out of the way and hand it right over back to you, Saafiyah. And what was your friend's name again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Anshay. Saboo.
Anshay. All right, let's give it back over to you and Anshay, and we will see you all on the other side of this conversation.
Welcome back to the Viterbi Voices podcast. I am your co-host today. My name is Saafiyah Patel. I haven't been on the podcast in a hot minute, so I don't know if you guys remember me. I think the last time I did an episode was about 4 months ago. So I'm really excited to be back and to be joined with such a special guest today. I'll let them introduce themselves, but they've done a lot of cool things at USC and they're so talented. So Anshay, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me. My name's Anshay. I'm a senior here studying computer science, originally from SoCal. I'm from down in Irvine, California. And yeah, excited to be on the podcast today.
So tell the people a little bit how you found yourself at USC.
Absolutely. So coming to USC was kind of always a goal for me, even throughout high school. Both my parents went to USC and actually met here. And so USC has kind of always been in the family. And so it was always a dream of mine to come study here and be close to home as well. And so initially, it sadly didn't end up working that way. Out of high school, I didn't get into USC and I ended up going to University of Washington for a year. And so while I was there, I applied to transfer here. And even though I loved it up in Seattle, it was great to, kind of get away from home for a little bit. When I had the opportunity to come here, transfer, kind of continue in the family tradition of coming here, I think if I had a gut feeling this was the right place for me. And so I ended up coming back home. And now even my little brother goes to USC as well. So I'm glad we're 4 for 4 family members as Trojans. And yeah, that's kind of how I found myself coming back here.
That was so funny when you first told me that your parents met here, because I remember when you told me, I was in utter shock. I was like, there's no way people actually have like love stories at USC like that. Like, that's so crazy. Especially because they were both Viterbi, right? They were ISC.
Yep.
That is so insane to me. I feel like you never hear about that happening, but go them. And Anjay's parents are so lovely. So they really made it. And his brother is also very cool. He's in the cinema school. I feel like everyone that I've met in the cinema school knows Anjay's brother. So very well-known cracked family. So I was also a transfer, and I feel like it was very difficult kind of finding your place when you first get here as a transfer. And this goes out to all the people who are thinking about applying as transfers as USC, because I know the application deadline is coming up very soon. So talk a little bit about how you got yourself integrated into the community here, like how you found that process. Was it challenging for you? Because I know it's challenging for me. So anything that helped with that, any advice you have?
Absolutely. So I think my first semester after I transferred to USC was definitely a very difficult semester for me, just in terms of, finding my communities and getting myself acquainted with the school. And so I actually got into USC very late in the transfer process. I got my decision in like the beginning of July, and I literally had like 1 month to secure like housing and do all my course registration and everything. And so it's definitely a very like sped up rush process. I'm sure lots of transfers can relate to who got in that late cycle. But I think what it really came down to me was pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and just going out and taking advantage of all the communities that USC has to offer. Something that really shocked me when I came here was just the level of student involvement in like extracurricular activities and student organizations, and literally and whatever you're interested in, there's some kind of student organization that's been set up for it with a group of people that are super passionate about the same thing that you're passionate about. And so when I got here, I think I literally just would go to so many club events, probably like 10 or 12 clubs. I ended up going, meeting, like talking to them, seeing if I liked the people, liked the stuff that they worked on. And so in the end, I ended up joining Theta Tau, which is the engineering fraternity here.
Which is
And
how
so
we met, for context. You joined your first semester here too, right?
Yep.
Anshay's a year ahead of me, but he joined his first semester and then I joined my first semester too. So that's how we know each other. I think Theta Tau was a really good way to like get integrated here, because you kind of meet the engineers who are a little less stereotypical engineers, in my opinion. They're very social, definitely the more outgoing ones, which I think was the kind of vibe that I was looking for when I first got here, especially when you don't know anyone in your classes and you're taking like 103 and 170 combo and you don't know who to lean on, and they're the only people who kind of give you mentorship and guidance on that. What are the other clubs? Because I only know about you and Thea Taught and I think we briefly talked about Project Rishi, maybe. What other clubs did you kind of like find yourself gravitating towards at the beginning? Because I feel like everyone has those clubs that they like really were involved in the first 2 weeks of school and then never went back to.
Yeah. Another club for me, it came the semester after my second semester, I applied to Troy Labs because I've always been very interested in like entrepreneurship and business and technology. And so I really wanted to become involved with the entrepreneurial community here on campus. And so I found that Troy Labs was a great way for me to do that. Met a lot of very smart, very talented people and got to work with a lot of very cool startups while I was there. I think I was active for like 3 or 4 semesters with them, which was a really great time, be able to really integrate myself into the startup community here, which was a very important factor for me coming to USC was, taking advantage of all those resources that we have here for, people looking to start businesses. And so that was something that was very cool, very exciting time.
That's a perfect segue into a little bit about the side projects that Anshay works in while he's been at USC. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard about InstaFest, but it was a little bit of like a graphic that had customized like music festival playlists, or not playlists, music festival graphics for people to post on their stories. But I'll let Anshay talk a little bit more about that process.
Sure. So InstaFest was a project I made my junior year, I believe it was. So in May, the May of my sophomore year, so like towards the end of my sophomore year, it was like music festival season, like Coachella was around that time. And I remember I was just in bed one day back home in Irvine. I was just scrolling through like Instagram and just seeing like photos of people posting at Coachella and stuff. And so that got me thinking. I was like, if like Coachella or like all these music festivals had like this, and this artist, like maybe I'd like maybe I would have gone this year, but I didn't like the lineup, so I didn't end up going. And so that kind of got me thinking of what if I can just connect my Spotify to some website and have it generate for me like my dream music festival poster. And then that would be something that people could share on social media, send to their friends, just be like a good like overall social kind of music, not really platform, but like a social music app. And so after I had that idea, I just immediately got up, went to my computer and started putting things together. And then the project initially, like that initial version of it took just like a couple hours to get like a base version of it. And over like the next 6 months on and off, I was just working on it, tweaking it, and ended up launching it in November of 2022, I think it was. And so after I launched it during Thanksgiving break because I had a little bit of time then. And so I posted my like InstaFest graphic on my story, but a little context about the app. So essentially you just log in with your Spotify account and it'll generate for you a music festival poster. It'll give you like 3 days, like your top artists will be your headliners. And then underneath that would be artists you listen to less. And so essentially just your dream music festival based on your listening history. And so I posted my graphic to my story. A few of my other friends, probably like 5 or 6 of them posted. And from there, and within the next week, the app grew from just those like 5 people posting to over 20 million people having used the app, and then getting like different like news sites to cover it, and different like big artists were posting it. Honestly, I'm still in denial that this even happened. It was just a crazy time. And so it was just so incredible to see something I made being, used and like enjoyed by so many people, and having that impact and being able to, hopefully a lot of people had fun with something I made. And so that was a very fulfilling experience for me.
It was really crazy to see because I initially didn't even see it on like, I saw it in your story, obviously, and a couple of the other older members in Thea Top, but I remember I saw it on my USC friend's sister's story who went to Berkeley. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was within the hour of you posting your story too. And I was like, how did it get that far already? And Andre was like in his celebrity era too. I was texting him. I was sending him TikToks about his InstaFest and everything. I didn't get a response from this man for about 3 months, but I understand. His DMs were flooded. His messages were being flooded, and it was also really cool to see because I remember during one of our Theata events, you were showing us a little demo of how it worked, and all of us were telling you how cool it was. And you're like, no, it still has so much work to do. And then within, I think it was 2 months after that, that's when it released, and it grew so much. And then you were talking about all the issues with the server too, right?
Yeah, that week where I launched it, I don't think I slept for maybe 3 days. I was just I got very sick during that time too, just because I wasn't sleeping, because like I just had to keep on like fixing different issues, different bugs, like adding features. Like it was such like a live moment where in that moment, like so many people were on and talking about the website and like asking me for like different like my thoughts on the app and like interviewing me and things like that. And it was a very exciting experience, just being able to make changes to the app and see that immediately millions of people would be on those changes. Like I would add a new feature. I added a feature called the basic score, where I had
I
just a
was offended
random
by the
random
basic score.
idea.
I had like a 78 on
Mhm.
the basic score, and I thought, not to be one of those people, but I thought I had a decently niche music taste, and I had a higher basic score than I think you did. And you listen
Mhm.
to your top artists are like Drake and Kanye.
You might want to cut the Kanye part out, but
It's okay, it's okay.
we're
The
good.
the people that have made it this far, I feel like they'll appreciate
The sticking with the pod, man.
it.
No, but my basic score is definitely higher. Mine was like 82 or 83, but the kind of whole point of it was to create something that would add another dimension to the graphic itself. And so, just get another like talking point for people when they share their festival with people. And so a lot of like the kind of the design of the poster and everything was about creating these talking points, like, oh, like which day would you rather go to? I split, instead of just doing like a 1 day graphic, I made it like a 3 day like Coachella kind of style graphic.
Yeah.
So trying to create those conversations, like, oh, which one of these days would you go to? Or, like, oh, you're more basic than I am. And so creating those talking points was one of the goals with the design. And so adding the basic score, it was very cool to just like publish that feature and within a minute just refresh my Twitter and start seeing people
Mm.
talking about it in that moment. So it's really, really fun time, even though I didn't sleep for multiple days.
And a lot of fun opportunities came out of it too. I remember you went to
Mhm.
like was it an album release?
There was so a lot of people were asking me about that time. They're like, has Spotify like reached out to you? Did they say anything? I'm like, nope, like I don't think they saw it yet, but they reached out to me and were like, hey, like we saw Fest is really cool. We'd love for you to come to like our Spotify end of the year
Mm.
party. And so it was out here in LA. And so that was a really, really fun time being able to go and like talk to like people within Spotify and them telling me their experience with InstaFest and being like one of the guys, he was like some head of like music at Spotify was telling me, he's like, he told me he wrote like a really angry email to his team because he was like, how did like some kid create this website and we had no clue it happened? Like how like where did this come from? Like people within the company thought that it was an official Spotify product and they were like talking within themselves like, wait, who made this? Like when did we work on this?
That's
And it just
insane.
turns out that it was some little college junior at USC who had created it. And so meeting them was super cool. They were all like, oh man, it's so cool. One of the like heads of Spotify was showing me his InstaFest and his top three artists were just like Peppa Pig
Oh,
soundtrack because of his
wait.
kids, because he plays it for his
Okay.
kids. He doesn't listen to the Peppa Pig soundtrack, but he
I
was
don't
he
know
was
if
just
some
playing it for
people
his
have.
kids. And so that was just really, really great time going there. And then that like kind of helped
Mm.
my, you know, segue me further just off the experience into like more job opportunities, more opportunities to explore music and explore tech and the intersection of the two. And yeah, very, very grateful for those opportunities that I had.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your own startup that kind of came out of that too?
Sure thing. So after InstaFest, I was getting a few emails from people being like, "Hey, do you want to like come work on this project with me?" Like just a bunch of people being like, "Hey, we should work together." And so out of all those emails, I don't know how it ended up, but one like he emailed me about 3 weeks after. Someone who works in music publishing out here in LA emailed me talking about this website and this company called Drumify. And so they hit me up to get coffee and talk about the company. And out of all like I had like maybe like 100 emails of people being like, hey, we should like meet. I responded to as many as I could, but this one was the one that kind of stood out. And I don't know why, I just had a gut feeling with it. And so I set up the meeting, got coffee with them. And so I ended up literally that next week just being like, all right, let's do it. And they told me about the company and it sounded very interesting to me, especially like the level at which it was. So what Drumify is essentially is it's a music platform for producers. And so basically the company has a production label called Split Mind, which is kind of like a record label, but for music producers. And so they have like a bunch of producers signed, incredibly talented, really cool guys who have worked with like artists from like Drake to Bad Bunny to like, if you name an artist, they probably worked with them before. And so they have a website called Drumify where they sell sample packs, which is basically just folders of sounds that other producers can use to make beats with. So there'll be like drum sounds or like piano sounds, guitar melodies, things like that. And so they sell the building blocks to beats. The way their business model works is, let's say that you're a producer and I'm a producer on Splitmind. So I'll create a pack of like guitar sounds and I'll upload it to Drawify. And let's say you buy my pack of guitar sounds, you make a beat with those sounds, and then like let's say Drake makes a song with that beat. So we as Drawify get a cut of the royalty, and the producer who made the sounds gets a cut of the royalty, which is something that we don't see a lot in the music industry today. The trend right now and the dominant facet has been this idea of royalty-free music. And so what a lot of the biggest players in this space, websites like Splice, have like millions and millions of royalty-free sounds. And it doesn't matter like who makes a song with your sounds or how big it gets. The producer who originally made those sounds is never going to get a cut of the pay. And so we want to really democratize that experience. And so I was super intrigued by the idea, the momentum that they had. And so what they essentially were looking for was, none of them were technical people. Drawify at that time was just a Shopify store. And so they wanted to spin out Drawify and, scale it up from a technological perspective, add all these different features and build it into its own company and its own like experience. And they needed someone with the technical know-how to be able to do that. And so they saw me through Inspect, like, hey, this kid seems like he knows how to code and he seems like he likes music, so let's hit him up. I got coffee with them that day and just really loved the idea. And then they got to know me a little bit and they knew how to seal the deal. And so they bought me really good seats to a Lakers game. And so that was it. I was sold after that. So
They knew how to convince you on
they
that
knew
one.
how to play me. They knew how to play me. Yeah. So they knew how to draw me in. And so I worked with them. That was January of 2023. And so I've been working with them ever since. And yeah, it's been such a super, super, super cool experience. They have a headquarters now out in Beverly Hills. And so would take time out of the day, like go to class and drive over there, drive back in like the 1 hour traffic, go to class again. And so it's been a really super great being able to get that experience. And I feel like I've learned and grown so much from being able to work at like a small stage or like a relatively early stage startup and seeing it come to the scale that it has now. I launched a fully new version of the website, hired a team of developers, had to learn how to become a product manager and developer at the same time. And that was just a lot of experience that I feel like I wouldn't have gotten if I'd opted to, do like another like different internship last summer. And so just been a very cool ride.
How has it been managing it during the school year, especially because you're a senior? And I know at the very beginning of this semester, we talked about how you really want to do everything you can this semester just to live out that final best semester that you possibly can. So how has it been like managing driving to Beverly, coming back, trying to hang out with your friends, going to class, finishing your PAs?
It's been a wild experience. I can't lie. Like I feel really tired a lot of the time. And I think in the end, it was just, making sure I'm managing the rest of my time well. Like I have free time that sometimes I'll just waste it like playing video games or lying around in bed. But just being able to, kind of build up that stamina to be able to do all the code I need to do for school and then still have the energy and time to go over there and put in like good hours of work, do all those meetings and then come back, still have the creative energy to be able to like kind of avoid that burnout. And it did get to me a lot of the times. I was feeling burnt out. I was feeling like I kind of lost the creative sense and the love for, I kind of lost my love for the process at a point. And so I think what it really came down to was just enjoying, the fact that I had so much to do. I was very very grateful to even to be that busy. I think it was an experience, but in the end, it just made me, better at my time management, and I feel like it came out better because of it. And yeah, it was a struggle, but at the end of the day, if anything's possible, if you just sleep a little less, as I like to say.
I wish I was good at sleeping less. I was studying for a midterm with Nikki the other day, and we were in Levy basement, and we were going over a practice midterm, and you could see my head bobbing up. She yells at me, and she goes, "Wake up right now!" I was like, "I'm up." And our midterm was the next day at noon, so we didn't have much time. So I'm not very good at lack of sleep, even though I feel like most college students are. Also, I wanted to ask, I feel like I get some weird reactions about this when I mention it to people, but I feel like we both want to work in more creative industries after we graduate. Even though it's still computer science, we want to like maybe work in the fashion industry or the music industry. And I feel like people kind of give me a weird look. They're like, "Oh, you don't want to work at a big tech company instead? Like that's where the money is. So what are your thoughts about that, or like the worst reactions you've received from someone?
Yeah, I think for me, what it comes down to is I enjoy within like CS and within coding. I think the aspect of it I really love is the creative aspect, like treating programming as it's in the end it is creative, like we're building. At the end of the day, the goal is not to write lines of code, it's to build an app or to build a server or build, create something that didn't exist before. And so the creative aspect, coming up with my own ideas and like creating those experiences on the front end, it was something that led to me finding my passion for computer science and what has driven me throughout all these projects that I've worked on and driven me throughout the past few years here at USC. And I think that kind of carries out into, what is being worked on as well. Like I'm someone like super interested in like music, super interested in sports. And so being able to, I think what's so great about being in engineering, being in CS is that like you can apply it to literally any industry. Like every industry needs to be able to be technologically efficient nowadays. And so being able to come in and, do the work in the way I love to do it, but also do it for something that I love was a very important thing for me too. And in a way, like it sounds super corny, but I feel like software is like in some ways it's art. You got to design it. There's a lot of like creative effort that goes into it, which I feel like people outside of CS and sometimes even within it don't really recognize a lot of the time because they get so caught up in like the individual lines of code and the efficiencies and all that. And I mean, it's kind of hard to enjoy it when you're through like all these like low level classes and everything. But in the end, it's pretty cool to see, being able to create something that at the click of a button, like millions of anyone around the world can use something you built in an instant, which is something that's so cool and so unique to being in CS. And so, yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to for me is being able to do creative work, but also know that the work I'm doing is serving something that I'm passionate about and something that I love and I'm interested in. And that's kind of what drove me towards the music industry, being able to, have like some like small hand to play in the creation of these songs that have like billions of streams and be connected to the people that end up doing it. Like being able to, I've been working with this team of producers for a year now, and it's been so cool watching their creative process and how their minds work. It's like it's insane the way they're able to just. I didn't have an appreciation for how hard it is to make the beats of the songs that I listen to before, but now I do. It's super incredible what they do, and yeah, it's just kind of passionate about creative work.
Very cool. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit because I feel like we've talked about startups, computer science for a little bit of time now, and I want to dive more into your thoughts on being a senior right now. You're graduating in 2.5 months. It's coming up quick. How do you feel about that right now?
Honestly, a little not really ready. I feel like no one's ever really ready. Like, because after this, people always talk about when you're in high school, they're like, oh, you're like college is the best 4 years of your life. You're gonna love it. And then, but like after this is just work, man. Like, I mean, there's obviously it's an exciting time in life too, but it's also I feel like I've enjoyed college so much, and it's just a lot of fun being here. And so I know that in the end, gotta move on and start making money, but yeah, for right now, I'm just here in the moment, just trying to enjoy these last few weeks I have with my friends.
Even thinking about this summer, because obviously I'm a junior, so I still have another year to kind of do that whole college process. But this summer, just thinking about working a 9 to 5 every day, it feels unfathomable. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna turn into my parents. I'm gonna have no time for my hobbies. I'm never gonna see, I was complaining to my parents, I was like, I'm never gonna see New York in the day when I'm there. And she's like, you realize there's weekends, right? Like you're not working every day. I was like, oh, that's a great point. Thank you so much. So I'm terrified for becoming a senior. I don't want this semester to end. So I can't imagine, not to make it worse, but I can't imagine what you're going through. Are there certain things that you're still like trying to cross off your bucket list before these last couple weeks finish up?
I don't know if it's like specific things. I don't really have like a see. I should make one. I feel like that would be fun. But just trying to just like waste as little time as possible. Just kind of trying to make the best use of my time. Like go hang out with one of my friends or work on something that I'm interested in or go somewhere and explore a new area that I haven't seen in LA yet. And so just making the best use of my time, I think right now, and just not like sitting around and just like watching TV, going out and like doing stuff while I still can, I think has been the goal so far. And I think if I have that kind of, if I'm looking for things to do, there'll always be things to do. And
Mm.
that's just kind of what I've been doing.
If you had to add, let's say 3 things to your bucket list right now, off the dome,
Ooh,
what are you adding
okay.
to it?
Okay, one item that I already crossed off the bucket list was to go skiing this
Yep.
semester. And so that was a super, super fun trip. I'm really glad that we made it happen.
Mm.
I honestly, there was a lot of factors that were getting in the way. There was a, a blizzard that was supposed to hit the weekend we were going to go, and it looked like the entire trip might have been canceled.
Oh,
But luckily, the blizzard got delayed a little bit, and we had to cut a day off the trip. But we still ended up going up there, having a great time. So yeah, skiing was one of the things on the having doing a ski trip was one of the things on the bucket list
that
that I was able to cross off.
that trip was
Um,
beautiful. Like even though the blizzard was happening, I just remember
mhm,
waking up after the first day of skiing, so the second night, and it was just fresh powder
mhm.
everywhere. Like every car in sight was completely covered in white snow, and I hadn't seen snow like that in since I was like 7. So that was crazy to see. And also it was my
Mhm.
first time skiing, so that was scary for me as is with it coming down with fresh powder in my
Mhm.
face. Could barely see when we were going on our first blue. It was crazy, but it was so much fun. I'm glad
Such a
that
great trip.
you carried that trip and got it out of the group chat. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, what else would you add?
Let's see. I want to hit Vegas at least once now that I'm
Okay.
21. I think that's another one on the bucket list. Let's see. What's a third thing?
What's like a
Oh
very
no.
typical LA touristy thing that you haven't done?
LA touristy thing I haven't done. I haven't done the Hollywood sign hike
Oh, okay,
before,
okay.
which is a very touristy thing. I know a bunch of people in Theta Tau actually just came back from that hike this morning, funnily enough,
They left at 5
at
a.m.
5 a.m. At
I
5
can't
a.m.
imagine. Some of them had midterms today too.
Hmm.
So I don't know how they're surviving their midterms. They're troopers for that one.
You
Could
got to
not.
do what you got to do, man.
I think I slept at the time they left, or the time they
I
woke up.
literally, no, I actually slept at when they, I fully slept when they left. That's so
I
funny. I
slept
just
at
realized that.
4:30 a.m. and then I was just thinking about the fact that they were
Mhm.
getting up to get ready to go. I just
What were you doing until 4:30?
I was watching the OC.
The OC? What's the
Yeah,
OC?
it's like rich people that live in Newport Beach basically,
Hmm.
and it's almost like reality TV but not. Like it's like
Hmm.
just talking about their lives, their drama, their relationship status,
Bro,
whatever.
there's a whole show on Orange County, and I did not know about this.
It's crazy though, because they mention places, because we're both for OC for the
Mhm.
listeners, but they'll mention places that you definitely have heard of and you've been to. They like talk about South Coast Plaza
South Coast
and they talk
Plaza.
about driving down to San Diego and going to La Jolla. And
No way.
someone mentioned USC in it because he was like an accountant for one of the main characters, and he was talking to his son. He's like, "Yeah, like we should go down to USC Notre Dame game this weekend. My alma mater. Like I was an accounting major there. Blah 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 blah." I was like, "This is so trippy because this is definitely how people like view USC
View, yep.
from the outside."
Hmm.
It's interesting.
I might have to start watching this show, man. I need to get locked into the OC culture.
I think you would hate it.
Hey, no, me and my roommates have been watching The Bachelor recently.
Oh,
So we just watched the most recent episode last night. And so I've been staying locked in. One of my favorite characters didn't get a rose, and so that was very, very
who was
sad.
it?
Not care have you been watching this season?
I have, because I'm in Helene's, and the Helene's girls love The Bachelor. They're having Bachelor watch parties. They're gonna throw like a whole party just for the finale.
Bro, dude,
So I just been
this last few
hearing
episodes have been
good
insane.
things.
I was a big Jen fan for all the any of the
Okay.
listeners out there. If y'all are Jen Nation, we stand together. She didn't deserve to get eliminated, I
Oh,
don't
wait, so
think.
who's left right now?
Right now it's between Daisy, Maria, Kelsey A, and Rachel.
Okay.
Those
I've
are
just been seeing the predictions about, because I thought it was already almost done because everyone's like, oh, it's definitely
Mhm.
gonna be Daisy.
Oh, really?
I
I don't
think
think it's going to be Daisy. After
that's
this
what
last
my
episode,
TikTok is
it's not
saying.
going to be Daisy. It's not because
Really?
I think it's between Kelsey and Maria. Those are the only two that I
I
think it can
love
be.
Kelsey.
Because Daisy, they don't got that chemistry, bro. The entire date, they weren't talking about anything. They were just like, oh, yeah, it's so beautiful. Like, wow, look at this landscape. Like all they talked about was how nice the date was. Like, but they didn't actually do anything.
Wait,
They don't have a connection.
Daisy's like the blonde one that everyone thinks is like so sweet, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but bro, she was even saying that she's not in love with him. Like,
Oh,
it's not gonna work. It's not gonna happen. Literally, Daisy was like, no, I just don't know if I'm there yet. No,
But here's the one.
I'm team Maria all the way.
Is Maria the one who was like asked if she could see a future with him, and she was like, I don't know. Like, why would I know? Someone said that, and they're like, wow, she's so real for that. Like, she
I
should
think
be
it
the
was
next
Daisy. I think that was Daisy.
That was
Daisy
Daisy.
was the one who was like, I don't know if I see it yet. And so that
Oh,
was like that was my prediction going to the episode. I was like, Daisy's gonna be like, I'm just not there yet.
oh my gosh. Okay, because again, this is all just based on the like 1 minute clips I see on my TikTok.
Hmm.
But someone was saying like everyone loves this one character because she's just so real. Like everyone, no one points out how delusional the people on The Bachelor are. Like they're just living in this little bubble, and she's the first
Hmm.
person that like points out that they're living in this bubble.
Yeah,
So it's like breaking the fourth wall of The Bachelor, and that's why like
interesting.
everyone on my For You page loves her.
Yeah, it's so funny, man. All the yesterday, like on the most recent episode we watched, everyone was talking about like, oh, like I find it so hard to talk to you when I know that you're talking to all these other girls, and it's like,
Mm.
dude, you're on The Bachelor. Like, I don't know what you expected. Like,
I was like, you
this is
signed yourself up for
yeah,
this
dude, like
one.
you signed like this is how the show works, man. It's there've been
I
like,
wanted to binge it during spring break though, because I
mhm,
want to be able to go to the parties that I mentioned about
mhm,
them like watching the finale all together, and I want to be
yeah,
like, really invested. And I have
uh-huh,
nothing going on during spring break, so I feel like it's the perfect opportunity to just sit in my bed for like 14 hours and
mhm,
binge the entire series.
100%. You got to avoid them spoilers though. It's an intense season.
I think I already know most of the spoilers.
You basically already know what happened.
Yeah.
I
What are
think the
you?
finale is over spring break too, I
Oh, it
believe.
is?
Mhm. It
No.
might be, or the week after. It's like it's coming up soon.
I'm
You got
hoping
to
it's
get
the
on
week
that.
after, so
Hmm.
that I can be integrated by the end of spring break, hopefully.
Hmm.
What are you doing for spring break?
I am going back home to Irvine, California,
Me
and
as well. Well,
chilling.
not Irvine, but close enough.
Shout out Fully, man.
Woo, Fullerton, California, best place in OC.
Yeah, doing a nice
Best someone
chill.
ever.
I got Fullerton at number two in OC.
Really? Okay.
Irvine got to go number one. I got Fullerton at a second. I'll give Anaheim a third.
That's an
Great,
interesting
great
take.
area.
Besides
I
Disneyland, I feel like there's not much going on in
yeah, but
Anaheim.
Disneyland is enough to take it to third.
But when's the last time you went to Disneyland?
Like a year and a half ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I worked for I did the Disney thing, and
Oh,
so they gave me free tickets. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna not use my free
yes.
tickets, and so
For
I just pulled up.
context, Anshay interned at Disney. If you needed any more reason to think Anshay was cool, there's one.
I
Um,
did a nice summer working for Mickey Mouse. It was a great time.
what perks did you get? They gave you free tickets. Did they give you
Mhm.
anything else?
There were a bunch. Actually, the perks were insane. Like basically every Disney product you get for free or discount. They have like a lot of like employee screenings. So like any like big Disney, Marvel, Star Wars movie that comes out, they do like an employee screening for it. I was working, this was still like it was like still kind of COVID at the time that I worked for them. And so there was still some like it was still like remote. And so well, they're based out here in LA. And so like Disneyland is right here. And so as an employee, I could have gone to Disneyland like anytime I wanted, like literally unlimited. Like I could have
Really?
just walked into Disneyland and done my work in there if I wanted to, like me myself. But then they give you like extra tickets, like you get a certain amount of tickets like every month to give for like family and friends, and like you can take them to the park, and you get employee discounts on everything within the park too. And it was nuts. Like I went in like every food, like all the food places, I get like 30-40% off, and then you get like a merchandise discount. And I remember at the end of the day, like it was like 10. I was like, okay, I gotta buy something like with my employee discount. And so I like go to buy something, and they're like, oh, the employee discount's actually 50% off for this for the it was in August, so the month of August is apparently 50% off for employees.
Oh my
And
God.
literally, I just went on a shopping spree throughout. Dude, I walked to the full. It was like there were 2 hours left until the park closed. I hit every store in the park. Like screw it. Like I just bought like a lightsaber because why not?
Oh,
Just sitting in my room, got it for $20.
oh
It's
wow.
incredible.
I
I
don't
mean,
know
like
if
why
that's
not?
how
You
I
know,
would
like a
be spending
souvenir,
my money.
huh?
I don't know if that's how I would be spending my money in
Dude,
Disney.
it was like I was in like a it was the end of the day. I'd been walking around for like 12 hours. I was like, you know what? I've given my time, I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into writing code for Mickey Mouse. I'm gonna take a lightsaber from him.
What
And
kind of
that
code are
is how
you
it
even
came.
writing for Mickey Mouse?
So I was working on I was doing iOS development for the
Okay.
app that you use when you go to Disneyland. So it was actually super cool. I was literally using the app I work on
You can
when I
like
went there.
tamper with
So
the wait times or something?
it's like the wait times, you can order food, you can
Mm.
like check into lines, you can reserve tables, all those different features. Like actually hella useful app. Shout out to the dudes who made it and let me work on it. But
Shout
yeah.
out to the dudes who made it.
It was
Crazy.
it was super cool experience, like being able to like
Mm.
create features that I knew that millions of people were going to be using
Yeah.
like when they go to Disneyland. Like a really great experience.
Because I feel like people that, at least USC students, like every senior I've talked to that isn't from California, Disneyland is on their bucket list.
Mhm.
Like one of my friends, she's from Plano, and she's like, we have to go to Disney before this school year ends. And I was like, I'm not in the nicest way possible. I don't know if I'm trying to go to Disney right now.
Yeah.
Because
It's
Disney,
in our backyard. Like for us, it's not a big deal.
yeah.
Like we're like, oh, bro, like, I hit Disney on any given Sunday, man. Like
Oh,
it's fine.
I don't know about all that. I did have a Disney pass when I was,
I mean, like years ago, like way
yeah,
back. Yeah,
when I
way
was
back, it
in
was a
fifth
regular
grade.
thing.
When the tickets were like a lot cheaper for
Hmm.
California residents,
Yep.
everyone had the pass. They would go Sunday morning because Saturday would be a blockout date.
Hmm.
One time I went and my friend, you know how one of the rides, it's like the bars are wood. So he was
Hmm.
sliding his hand across the wooden thing and got a huge splinter. And we had to go to the Disneyland hospital.
No
But it's in like
way.
Toontown. So it's like a Toontown looking hospital. And it's the most laughable place ever. And they take it so seriously because they're like, oh my gosh, like we need to extract this splinter from his finger, blah, 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 blah. And they didn't want to they didn't want to catch a case or anything. So they gave us like free skip the line passes for the rest
Ooh.
of the day. So I was
Mm.
like, this is a life hack. Someone just needs to
Yo,
get
I should just get a splinter when I go to Disneyland,
and
man. Like I'll take those.
then you gotta go to the Toontown Hospital. Like
The
that sounds kind
Toontown
of hard.
Hospital, man. That's so funny. Was the doctor wearing a Mickey Mouse suit?
I blocked out the rest of that. I was like, this is crazy that we're even here. I don't know what's going on. And some of my friends to this, they're like 22-year-olds that still have Disneyland passes.
Damn.
And I'm like, you're bordering on Disney adult.
Yeah, that's dangerous territory.
It
That's
is
very
dangerous
dangerous
territory.
territory. A
But they'll
Disney
just
pass at
go
this age is nuts.
because they have hybrid work. So they'll just take their laptop and go do their job at Disneyland.
That's crazy. I could have done that. I really wish I had done that.
But it's different for you because at least you worked at the company.
Yeah, right. That would have been so funny. Like I just pull up to Disneyland and I add something to the app and I just literally use it right there. That would have
Or
been
you just
funny.
like change it so that it allows specifically you to skip like all the lines.
Literally, I just log into the production server and then give myself like unlimited food credit.
Oh, that's smart. See, that's why I
Hmm.
want to work for I want to work for like a makeup company and then just get
Hmm.
free makeup.
Free
And, like,
makeup.
go to brand events. Because I keep
Hmm.
seeing um this one girl on I keep mentioning TikTok. I swear I'm not addicted to TikTok. But this one girl is always on my free page as a data analyst at Sephora. And she just goes to brand events constantly. She gets like free Dior and Sol de Janeiro and that's the life I'm trying to live, hopefully.
She's balling, man. Shout out her, man.
Shout out her. She's killing it.
Hmm.
To kind of wrap up the podcast, is there anything you would kind of do differently if you were to go back to your sophomore year when you first transferred, or things that you're looking forward to after graduation, if you want to talk about your plans after graduation?
Absolutely. So, so I think looking back, something that I kind of wish I took more time out to do is maybe explore my interests beyond like within CS and within business and entrepreneurship. I always kind of been interested in like design and things like that. And so being able maybe taking some more time to get involved in some more of those communities on campus, I think, but at the end of the day, there's always it's trade-offs. Like if I do one thing, I'm not gonna have time to do the other. And so at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with the things that I committed to and the things I put my time towards and the communities I was able to become a part of during that time. And after graduation, so I sold my soul to corporate tech, as we talked about earlier, sadly. And so I'm going to be going and working for Meta after I graduate up in the Bay Area. And so
Woo!
hopefully I will end up working in those creative like companies that we talked about
Yeah.
earlier, because that's always been the goal for me. Has always kind of been the end game, but hopefully Meta will be a good place for me to learn and develop some new skills, make some new connections, and then move forward from there.
Maybe you can just like revamp all of WhatsApp and
Mhm.
then that can be your creative outlet.
That can be it. I
You
just go
you
just start
find your niche.
making random changes into WhatsApp. All my uncles and aunties up in India are gonna be like, "Oh, you see this? Anshay worked on this."
That's a good way to have the parents be proud of you. Like,
Mhm.
oh, you see that function you're using? My son did that. I think my parents would be so proud of me.
All
But
the
thank you
aunties gonna be gossiping, man.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule. And we're filming this on a Friday morning, so I feel like you could have slept in. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Looking forward to seeing where you kind of take that creative field once you do graduate. I feel like you have a bright future ahead of you. I'm excited to see where it goes. And I will be checking in about the Bachelor finals or the finale to see. We'll have a debrief after it if I ever do catch up on the episodes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Saafiyah, thank you for bringing us another great episode. Definitely very entertaining to hear. And I think if anybody listens to the intro and outros, they probably know like we digress, and like that's
Always.
just we're just capturing the natural flow of conversation. You know, like what does a Viterbi person think about? Well, the Lakers and the Bachelor, in addition to computer science. So.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it's always one of the main questions that I think we get. You guys who get from a student perspective, I get it a lot from admission, which is like, prospective students saying, "What's a Viterbi student like?" And the answer almost always is there's not one type. And so what I love about these episodes is that it's just part of this mosaic, right? We understand and get to know lots of different people, lots of different backgrounds, and everybody does something slightly different here, and they have different takes on what their experience is like. So I truly appreciate, Saafiyah, you bringing this story to us because, Anshay's experience is not your experience and it's not Maya's experience, but you all, end up being together and doing cool things, and no one is cooler than anyone else, I think.
And I think
Mhm.
even when you guys have such, because me and him, I would say, have very similar paths in a sense. We both grew up in Southern California. We're both transfer students. Like on paper, you would think that we're very similar, but our experiences in itself has been so different. So I think really every Viterbi student is so dissimilar, and it's kind of cool to see like how that amalgamates into this diverse community.
Totally.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, what's your take on The Bachelor? Real
I'm
quick.
very behind. Most of my current knowledge is based on snippets I see on my TikTok or overhear conversations during Helene's meetings. So I don't have much of an opinion. I know that everyone is rooting for Daisy and Maria. Anshay's rooting for Maria because Jen got eliminated. That's all I know, though.
All right. About as much as I know right now.
Yeah.
I'll sit behind on this. Yeah. Oh, Paul, forgot to loop back, but we are, for context, everybody, doing this earlier in the day on Friday.
Oh my God.
So
It's not Friday at 4, and it almost
Yeah.
was. And so I'm super jazzed. I was going to start that way, but I felt like we would keep Saafiyah out of the loop with that one.
Yes. Yeah, for context, it's been like a late at 4 or later on Friday recording for what is it, the last 3 or 4 weeks?
It's been really bad.
Yeah,
I've
it's just like
had
the
5 weeks of interview. I did the math on it. I had 145 interviews over the last 4.5 weeks.
Is that all for?
That's like 80 hours of interviews.
Oh, wow.
that's
My brain
ridiculous.
is melted.
Yeah.
I
Well,
wouldn't be able to remember a single conversation after that.
Well, that's why you
Mm.
take notes.
They were all blurred together to me still.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Well,
it's done now.
I was going to say, is this the light at the end of your tunnel that you were
Oh
talking
no,
about?
it is so light. Like yesterday was the ending of all of that. Without getting too much in the weeds, it's not one set of interviews, it's 2 sets of interviews. It's your guys's VSA stuff and then also scholarship interviews. And it's just the timing so I was jumping between those, often doing 8 VSA interviews in a day and 4 to 6 scholarship interviews in a day, and they're all like 30 minutes each. I love to talk about how hard I've worked. But it's what's good about it is that we met yesterday. We finalized all scholarship awards for the incoming class of 24.
That's
done,
exciting.
Locked. Well, it's done. We're now doing some double checks. There's always a day or two of like quality assurance. Did we mess up? There's some other stuff that without getting, again, there's stuff that still needs to happen. But as far as I'm concerned, we're pretty much done.
Over the hurdle.
we're over the hurdle, and that was a big 6 hour meeting we did yesterday. And we locked it up, and I feel pretty good in how we did that. I'm excited about it. It's gonna be cool. And those decisions will come out next week. And then the VSA stuff, I'm waiting for you all. You all have a deadline of today to get me some stuff, and then I've pretty much got that locked in too. I think I know.
Nice.
I think I know how we're moving on to the next phase. But again, your guys' step that I'm waiting on from you all is the quality assurance part. And once I have that, I think I can make some notifications probably on Monday.
This is an exciting update for the podcast.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like I've been so entrenched in this stuff, and the last 2 days have had like these little pieces of work, and like it's so good. It's so great. I can
Mhm.
finally I mean, there's other things that now are like my emails like, oh, now you have to do that. Now you have to do that. And there's a couple of things like right before I jumped on the scene, like why I was late to this recording was I have to move on to figuring out what we're going to do with the rest of the class, but we'll get there. It's all good. It's all exciting. We're getting to that point. So, and I know that high school seniors are very nervous, and just know that progress is being made and we're moving along and everything's exactly where it's supposed to be. And oftentimes, like in the next couple of weeks, or when we start to get a lot of emails like, "Hey, can I talk to you about?" I'm like, "No, please don't. Like, don't like. We're trying to get stuff done. Like I have everything we need. Trust me. If we need anything, we'll get in touch with you." And I know that they mean well. But it's often that they think that they have to like, can I set up a meeting or can I send you an email? I'm like, no, we're good. Like, we don't have the time to go into that type
Yeah.
of stuff. So
I'm sure
it's
if I were
exciting.
you, I would be very like tired of talking to people. After 80 hours of interviews, I think I would just spend a weekend introverting, talking to no one.
Yeah, the new trend right now, no offense, Saafiyah, as transfer students, they they just submitted their application and now they want to have like a million conversations. I'm like, no, like just let it happen. Like the app is in. We're good. We're also not reviewing it anytime soon. So like we're trying to wrap up first year, then we'll get to transfer. We'll get there. But like literally, there's like this one guy. He's been emailing us 7 different times. He asked a single question in one email, then 20 minutes later, another question, then 20 minutes later, another question. So overnight we get like 6 emails and we're like, what are you doing? Um, it's I know they mean well, it's challenging, but it's like if you've applied, it's done. Let it be. We will
Yeah.
move on.
It's also so scary as a transfer applicant because you find out so late in the
Yeah.
academic year. So you're just on edge waiting. You're like, do I say anything? Do I wait?
I know.
Yeah, and then especially because I had friends who were applying to Dornsife and they get their acceptances wait, I think like 3 weeks earlier. So my mom just
That's not
thought
true.
that,
Don't stop there. That's not true. That is so not true. They don't get acceptances earlier.
oh,
This is my favorite thing about admission is that there are rumors, myths, stereotypes, and legends about how admission works. And there is not a set of dates in which schools release admission decisions.
Mhm.
It could have been coincidental that your very particular friends got a very particular admission decision in line with other people in other majors. But there's no such thing as now the Dornsife decisions come out. That never happens.
Mm.
So I want to stop you there. So I want to be clear about that.
Interesting. That's actually still, I think, our most popular episode that we've released is the USC Viterbi admissions myths and legends.
Yeah, it is.
Like that episode is continuously like the most listened to.
Well, yeah, and it's something. I understand where you're coming from. It's like in one particular snippet of one particular view in one particular time in one particular set of friends, this was true.
Yeah.
That does not mean that that's true outside of that magical, mystical element of 4 people or whatever. But what you were saying, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, totally fine. It was just scary because a lot of my friends had gotten their decisions, and then you're just kind of sitting there patiently wondering what the right option to do is. But then you get your acceptance, and everything's fine.
Well, that's the thing is like to zoom out a little bit is that transfer decisions are not a single dump.
Mhm.
Like it's not a single here they are. It is we have enough information about these particular students that we feel confident that we can make a decision about these particular students, and we're going to go with those. Then we're going to move on to these. Then we're going to move on to these. And then some of these are going to be, oh, you know what? We need to see spring grades. And some of those confident we need to see spring grade decisions are actually in the first batch. Like, we are so confident that we cannot make this decision. We're letting you know now. But some of them we might want to wait, because it's all about how it's contextual to the rest of it. For lack of a better term, that is giving everybody the best possible shot. Oftentimes, someone else has their decision. Can I get mine now? I'm like, if you want an earlier decision, you're not going to like it. Like, let your app still be in consideration. I can give you a decision right now if you want it. You're not going to like it at all, because that's an easy way for me to just move on. But it should be actually interesting. We have more transfer applications this year than we've ever gotten in the history of the universe. 20% increase in applications.
20, that's a crazy increase. That's not normal to increase that much in a single year? Is that correct?
Nope, never happened before.
Okay.
Yeah, something has happened. We don't know what. I'd like to say that I can point to very particular things that made it happen, and I could say that because it is kind of true, but I also know enough that I know that didn't do that. Like, I know these things. It's coincidental. It's not correlated, like certain things that we did. But yeah, there's almost 1,700 transfer applications.
Mhm.
That's huge.
Dang.
So it will be more competitive transfer admission this year than ever before.
A lot more people to talk to for you.
No. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people wanting to talk. That's the thing with transfers. Like, we don't need to. We really don't. And it just adds more work. And I know that transfer students, one of the challenging parts of transfer students is that stress, and they feel like they have to do more. And I just want to be clear, and I'm not trying to be rude. It's like, it doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't change anything. And it's not helpful. We will just take the time. And I also know that applying in February and getting decisions in May is hard, but that is the reality of the timeline. We get those decisions out by the end of May. Sometimes we go a little bit earlier if we can, but oftentimes we cannot, just because of the way the first year process works. Like, we have to get through first year, then get to transfer decisions. And oftentimes, whenever you talk to any transfer student, they say, oh my God, I got my decision so late. They could be talking about May because they're comparing to the UCs, or they could be saying they got their decision in July, because there's students that we have to ask for spring grades, and we don't get all those spring grades until the end of June, because we have to compare everyone on the same level. Like, they may have gotten spring grades in May, but the other students that we asked for spring grades didn't get theirs to the end of June. And so that's the hard part about transfer students, is that there's no one type of transfer student. They don't come from different pathways. They all have a lot of different unique backgrounds. And we have this really weird world of trying to compare and equalize them, if at all possible. So that's the hard part on all that stuff, Saafiyah. So I understand it's a stressful process, but you know, it all works. It works the way it's supposed to. But it also works the way it's supposed to in a selective environment. And a lot of transfer students believe it's not a selective environment. They think it's a qualified environment. Like, do I meet the qualifications? Yes or no? Why is it taking you so long to tell me yes or no? I'm like, because the majority of you are qualified. It's a selective admission process. It's not qualified. And that is different than many other transfer admission experiences, specifically in the UC system. So sorry that's stressful. I was just
going to say, it's really, I've never heard about the transfer admission process before. And like, coming in first year, I had no idea like what that entailed. So interesting to hear about like how it's similar yet like very different, I think.
Yeah, it's really, really challenging. And one of the things that, like, and Savi, you might relate to this, is that everybody always wants to, like, a transfer student always wants to talk to another transfer student. Like, hey, how did it go for you? I'm like, we're always like, that's not going to help you, because that person's path was so unique to your path. And often they're like, what did you do to get admitted? And it's like, first of all, they don't know. Second, whatever they did is likely a whole different story, right? Some students are only spending 1 year at a community college. Some students went to another 4-year institution and transferred after one. Some students were at community college for 2 years. Some students are, veterans and they, had military service and then came back to school. Some students are non-traditional students where they started college a long time ago, then went about their lives, had families, had kids, had jobs, and now come back to school. And they're on a completely different pathway. So we every transfer student, those are just like the broadest strokes of trying to describe a transfer student.
I think what I do when transfers, because you're right about they definitely are just comparing their path to yours and want to make it line up as similarly as possible because they think that if they check all the boxes, they're almost guaranteed acceptance. And I try to get that connotation out of their head as much as I can. And I think I just revert back to things that you emphasize, like even when we're talking to the high school applicants about just making sure you finish all the math that you really need and making sure you're meeting those class requirements that the apps are really looking for. And then the rest is kind of up to you to gauge like what you really want to showcase in your application.
Yeah. It's rough. It's very, very rough. And I think we might have talked about it on the podcast before, like the addition of online environments like Reddit and everything else where people are just like shouting questions into the unknown and people are randomly jumping in with seemingly quote unquote expert opinions. It's like, no, that's necessarily correct. It's wildly different for all the same things. So it's a struggle. I get it. I don't know. Well, if you guys ever think of other ways to communicate it, let me know. Cause that is our challenge point right now. Again, it's not a criticism, but we have so many incoming questions from transfer students that are actually the same questions. They just use different words and they think they're in a unique situation. And we're like, no, just do what we said and we'll figure it out. And that's always the hard part.
We can do a burning questions transfer edition. It'll be the same exact questions.
Oh,
that would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, now we're brainstorming. Okay, this is fun.
We gotta get another burning question set going. We gotta get another set of hot sauces going.
I am not doing that again. Saafiyah, I'm also is probably like, I'm out.
Saafiyah's in from here on out, right?
I would be intrigued to do another one. I want to see where I can test my limits too.
That's
okay.
Crazy.
Let's make a whole other one. Let's do a part 2 and make it nothing but transfer admission stuff.
We'll just see how far we can get. The last one we use for the last episode can be the first one we use for this episode. Then it only goes up from there.
I don't know if you can do that. You need growth. But what I would suggest is that we need to take it to like we need to get more sauces. And so that we can, and then we should plan, like if we do the transfer one, that's actually an excellent idea. We can work with Angie on what those questions would be and how they're asked.
Yeah.
Because we'd have to get into like articulation agreements. We'd have to get into building transfer plans.
Oh gosh.
We'd have to talk about how a lot of this stuff isn't guaranteed. Like there's some really weird things we got to get in there, but that would be fascinating to figure out.
I would love to be on the episode though, because I had to go through all of that myself. I'm an expert at the articulation agreement.
Okay, let's figure it out. So Saafiyah, start building it out. So last episode, Maya, we came up with an idea for a topic.
Yes, it was a senior year, the college domination list. This is funny, Saafiyah, when I was a freshman, I had, if you listen, I think it's the back end of the episode, I talk about this list I made when I was a freshman in my first semester. And these are like all the things I'm going to do to dominate college. And reflecting back, it's a good chuckle, honestly. So we're going to have like the seniors get around and discuss like, what are the things that like you thought you were going to do? And like, did you have a domination list? I don't know.
I want to make something similar for wrapping up my junior year, leading into my senior year, just to see what I accomplish. Because I feel like there's so many things that you think you're gonna finish out in your last semesters here. Like a little bucket list almost, and just see how much of it I'm able to do.
Well, what's interesting, I think the result of all this is what like what you envisioned for yourself without knowing what you're about to do. And then you do stuff and you look back and you say, oh, look at all the things I did that weren't even on that list.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about it. It's not like, oh, look what a failure I am, but it's much more about like, oh, look at all the things I've done that I evolved into, which I think is kind of cool.
Even when we started doing the scholarship interviews, because we obviously have to like get a little glimpse at their application. I went back and read my own application, and I was looking at the things I mentioned that I wanted to get involved in when I get to campus. It was so interesting to see which of those I had delved into and which of those were I was like, wait, I should look into that maybe, or things that I completely were off my radar that I got involved in.
That's cool. What was most shocking to you?
I was a lot less creative. Like I didn't express my creativity as much as I want to. I think I'm like involved in a lot more creative extracurriculars now that I
Mm.
didn't think I would do when I was first applying. I also thought I was a lot more interested in research than I turned out to be.
Mhm.
Everybody.
Research is not for me, I will say that.
Me too.
It's
Yeah.
everybody. I think it comes up on this podcast so many times. Like, I'm really into research. I'm like, really?
Do you know what research is?
Do you know what it is? Go do it.
Try
Then
it
tell me
out.
whether you're still into it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is one thing I appreciate, like the breadth of opportunities, and like you are able to try it at USC and Viterbi, and like there are those opportunities, but there are also like very clear opportunities and like large communities of people who like do it and then decide it's not for them. So it's not like you're
Right.
signing up for a PhD.
We should clarify, you've both done research. It's not like you didn't do it. Like you
Yeah.
had the access to it. It wasn't about whether you didn't have access to it. It's why you don't like it. It's like you did it. You're like, oh, it's not for me. But it's amazing coming from that high school or that younger perspective where you're like, you've been told that's what's important. And so you believe it is this giant trophy that you need. And you're like, not so much. And to be clear, there are some students that love it and they really get into it. And so it's just, to be clear, it's for particular people, and we don't know whether anyone is that particular person.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, we got like Lakers games to watch and The Bachelor.
Exactly. We all
All the
pick
fun.
their battles and how to spend our time.
Me on this podcast.
Exactly. Which reminds me, I'm just gonna say it for the podcast. Maya, you've only got
Gosh,
like
don't even.
8 weeks.
Less than that.
Less than that.
This end of week 8. Next week is Celine, and then after that, we'll see where it goes.
We are swirling that bottom of the bathtub right now with you, Maya. And we not only does that mean that you've only got so many episodes left of what you're going to accomplish on your podcast domination list, but we also need to figure out who will be taking your chair in the near future. And so offline, we're going to have to figure that one out.
Yeah, the mystery begins. Maybe we'll like, if we land on somebody, we can like soft launch it, like go drop
Lots of
some
ways
hints
to
or
do it.
something.
Lots of ways to do it.
No, thanks for sending me into a little spiral, guys. I'm gonna like log off and cry for a little bit, like process. But yeah, it's going really fast. And many things to be excited about. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, anyways, that was a welcome but unplanned diversion track into transfer admission. So thank you for taking us there, because I think it's important to talk about. And yeah, I can't wait to hear, Saafiyah, about your planned burning questions. I'm ready to do it when you wanna, because I think that is evergreen. It's worthwhile at any point of the year, and in the coming weeks, I have time to do those things. So if you are interested in doing it,
It may
What's the
have to
line?
be on the back burner just for a little, because I will be fasting starting from spring break because of
got it.
Ramadan.
Ramadan,
I will find a time to do it.
and that includes hot sauces, I'm assuming. Yeah,
Yes, of course, of
you
course.
just can't just take the straight hot sauce.
I can't even drink water, so I feel like hot sauce will be off the list.
How long is your fasting period? How long is Ramadan?
It's from March. It's a month from March 10th, I believe, to April 10th. And it's from sunrise to sunset every day.
Okay. All right. So all during the day. How do you go about your nighttime? Is there specific things that you eat?
Not necessarily. I feel like especially at USC, there's a really tight-knit Muslim population, and they provide dinners for us a lot of the times.
Oh, that's nice.
And the local mosque also. So the Muslim Student Union here is trying to do dinners 4 times a week, and then the local mosque has dinner 3 times a week on the opposite day.
Oh my
So
God, you're covered.
yeah, I don't think I'll be cooking for that whole month.
That's
Dude,
amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. Well, so yeah, you got 9 days before you get into that. Do you prep for that at all? Like, is it like just mental prep, or are you just used to it at this point where you're like, yeah, we just turn it on and off?
Kind of both. I think leading up to it, I definitely try to get more in the mentality. I try to like train my sleep schedule a little bit because I do wake up pretty early and try to eat before my fast starts. And it's also
Mm,
about emailing professors if I do have to step out during, because I have a lot of evening classes. So just letting them know, oh, I might step out for 5 minutes to just break my fast. And just communicating with them so it's a lot
yeah,
less comfortable when I do start doing it.
right.
But I've been doing it since I was about 10, so it's been a while. So I think my
Yeah,
body is just like used to that rhythm at this point.
interesting. That's cool. I never thought about of course, it makes complete sense. Like just wake up early, get food in you so that you can
Yeah.
last however long the 12-ish hours is going to be.
Mhm.
Um, hmm, very cool. Well, best of luck to you, Safia. Thank you for bringing this episode again, Maya. It's good to see you. Thank you again for organizing an earlier recording session. And yeah, now it's time. I thought I would squeeze in a workout before this, and I didn't get one in. So now, and I think it's wise because it's leg day, and I got to go do that, and I don't want to, and I'm gonna have to right now. So
Unfortunate.
Enjoy your
yeah,
leg day.
yeah, it's fine when it's done. I just hate getting into it. All right, see you guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.